webinar. And like she said, Erica, I'm going to talk about the illegal trafficking, illegal wildlife trade. In this case, I'm going to explain what is going on in Congo and what actions we are having in Congo for reduce this illegal trade. I'm going to start with the presentation. Oops. Okay. In Congo, the strategy that we are following for already 10 years is a strategy that we call the triangle approach, and I'm going to explain in this presentation. Just for understanding where we are now, is like in this map, you can see the historic chimpanzee range and the current range of the chimpanzees. We can see clear that the chimpanzee is in danger. And why is the reason that he's in danger? Oops, no. There are three main threats to the chimpanzee: loss of habitat with deforestation and some plantations of in specific areas of dense forest. Illegal trafficking. The illegal trafficking is trafficking for pets, for selling the chimpanzees like pets, and illegal traffic of bushmeat. And disease. There are the three main threats of the chimpanzees. Some of these threats, the reason of this threat doesn't come from Africa, come from outside. A lot of wood go out from Africa, and even chimpanzees are sold like pets outside of Africa. But now we are going to be focused in Congo. What actions we are taking in Congo for trying to reduce this illegal trafficking? First thing, why we are in Congo? Why the Goodall Institute is in Congo? Everything started one day, no? And this was the day that Jane came to Congo. It was in 1981. She came to Congo to a conference, and she saw a little baby chimpanzee in the market. When she saw the chimpanzee, she said, okay, I need to do something. But at that time, Jane didn't speak French, and she didn't have any contact in Congo. Then she said, okay, I need to go to the embassy, American embassy, and see if they can help me. And in the American embassy, they went to the police and they confiscated the chimpanzee. And what they did, they put this baby in a zoological park, in the zoological park of Brazzaville. And he was even in worse situation than before. And Jane started to work with the authorities for trying to find a solution. And the authorities gave to Jane a space, a place for create a sanctuary in the south of Congo. And the Goodall Institute created in 1992 the Chimpanzee Rehabilitation Center of Tchimpounga. The beginning of Tchimpounga was for holding 60 chimpanzees, and we started only with 25. But the chimpanzees confiscations start to increase to the level that the normal facilities, the facilities that we had at the time, couldn't hold all the chimpanzees. And we are right to a situation in 2008 of not enough facilities for our chimpanzees, and the welfare of the chimpanzees start to be in risk. That's the reason that we start to try to do something. But there is a moment that when you have this level of chimpanzees coming, there is this kind of frustration that you don't know what to do. And you try to see the problem, the big problem, and try to find a solution for the big problem, but it's not only one solution. And it's something that I like always this picture, because it's one of the advice that gives Jane, no? When you have a big problem, don't try to find only one solution. Maybe you need to find small solutions and to work together for go and slowly, and to try to get your objective. And the thing that we did, and the first thing, to stop a little, because all the time you have more and more chimpanzees that you cannot stop, and you are thinking just in the day a day, but you need to think in future. And that's the reason that you need to stop for a moment and think, okay, what we are going to do? And we started with this strategy of the triangle approach. In the triangle approach, we work in three directions at the same time with three big pillars. Chimpanzee welfare, we need to have the welfare at the level that we want for the chimpanzees, increase the facilities, have better forests for them in captivity, and public awareness and education programs. We need to put in place a program on a national level for inform the people and show why it's important to protect chimpanzees and to show that it's illegal to have chimpanzees in captivity. And law enforcement. In this case, we were not doing law enforcement, but we were working with other NGOs, like it's called PALF, for do law enforcement on the country. And working with other NGOs and working with the government, because always we work with the Ministry of Forest, we were able to work in these three pillars at the same time and with no stop. And what we are doing, for example, in the Goodall Institute in Congo, in chimpanzee welfare, the thing that we did, we were looking for new sites, and we found 3 big islands of forest, and we create another sanctuary that can hold 90 more chimpanzees. And like this, now actually we have 140, and we have the facilities appropriate for the number of chimpanzees that we have, and we can give the welfare that we want to our chimpanzees in captivity. For their side, we were training our veterinary team, a local team. We were giving them training for years for be able to do diagnostic on site and to give the better care to the orphan chimpanzees that we can confiscate. In question of public awareness and education programs, we have education programs in many schools around the country. We try to work with kids, trying to increase the empathy for animals and other species. And we do a lot of public awareness, and we did a campaign in a national level, but we decided exactly where we need to put the billboards. We were doing this campaign with billboards, and you can see on the left, we can see that billboard is in the market, in the bush meat market, and is in the billboard you can see that say that illegal to hunt chimpanzees and gorillas is really specific, and that was a huge impact. And we did the billboards all around the country. In the billboards, we try to send 2 messages. For one side, to show what is legal and what's illegal, and chimpanzees and gorilla plus money equal to prison. That's very simple, that everybody understands. And in the other side, we try to give a positive image of the chimpanzee and gorilla, because we want that people in Congo, they need to be proud of their primates. And for law enforcement, we were working very close to one NGO that is called PALF. It's the Riso of Eagle in all Africa. And we had confiscations that were really effective. And for example, we can see here in the confiscation of Motambo. Motambo was a chimpanzee that was confiscated in the river of Congo River. And the thing that was amazing in this confiscation was that PALF was able to confiscate the chimpanzee and put on prison the owner of the boat. That was something that everybody was surprised. People, they were thinking that transport chimpanzees was allowed, or to buy chimpanzees. You know, when we put in prison the driver of the boat, is like something completely new, and everything started to change. And after do this kind of confiscations, we did a lot of public awareness, but in newspapers, in the internet, every single chimpanzee that we confiscate, we try that we have a lot of images, and all people in Congo, they need to know what's happened if somebody has a chimpanzee or try to do illegal trafficking with a baby. Conclusion of this, that here we can see the graphic in Congo, and the graphic of the chimpanzee arrivals to our sanctuary. And we can see how in 2012 we started with the law enforcement and together with public awareness. And we can see how we have a first increase of arrivals, like 7 chimpanzees came the same year, and after start to decrease for 1, 0, 1, 0, and that's a number that now we keep always the number of arrivals. And even we were doing studies in protected areas, the chimpanzees is still in the protected areas, and it's not that they disappear of the wild. And we have some studies done in markets, and it's not possible. It's in all the markets in Pont Noir, we have surveys done with other NGO, that was ESI that did that survey, and they didn't find a meat of chimpanzee in the markets for years. And the meat of gorilla stopped in the 2012, that they see the meat of gorilla in the markets. And for me, it's incredible. That because sometimes when you start doing a campaign like that, you think that never is going to work, but to see the impact and so fast. And for me, this graphic showed me that we need to have hope, and the hope that has Jane, she gives the hope to everybody, and I think that we need to keep going with the strategies and think that we can do it, and then we will do it. Well, I have another part of the presentation that can finish here, but I have another part that I can do the second part because I have time. That's an example of the joint effort of chimpanzee conservation. That is a real case. This thing happened in December. December 2019, it was the 25th December, and this thing happened in January. A chimpanzee was found in the north of Congo in terrible situation, and people from PALF went there and confiscated the baby. The baby came to Tchimpounga, and because we have a team that they were trained for give the medical care necessary for rescue babies, we were able to give a blood transfusion to the baby. At the same time, newspapers and the media start to give information about the confiscation, and that's the trip that did the baby for arrive to us. Blood transfusion and all the media that we did. And 1 week later, we put the billboard on the site. The thing is that we did this, the 3 pillars of the triangle approach in question of 10 days. And we can see the difference. And when we work together with other NGOs, all with the same direction, with the same strategy, we have success. Thank you so much for. And now it's finished. I don't have second part of this.
That's great. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I think it's really important, you know, from this perspective of the Jane Goodall Institute, that we wanted to show this triangle approach in practice and having all 3 of those actions taking place to try and combat the illegal trafficking of chimpanzees. So we're going to open it to questions now for Rebecca. So if any of our panelists or attendees listening, please go ahead and put your questions. We have a question from Robin. Rebecca, Robin is asking, what milk formula do you give to a baby chimp? Is it specially formulated?
The milk formula we use is human. The milk formula that you buy for humans.
So the milk formula for human babies?
Yes, for human babies.
And we have another question coming from our colleague James at JGI Australia. Can you tell us how COVID is impacting at Tchimpounga?
COVID is impacting, in the case of Tchimpounga, it's impacting all the sanctuaries. In the case of Tchimpounga, we did a lot of protocols for trying to separate the teams in specific, the people working in Tchimpounga 2 weeks and stay day and night. We changed the protocol of people going and living to the sanctuary, and like in other places, we have masks, gloves, and we have disinfection before and after going to the places that are chimpanzees. And for the moment, the big impact is economic because it's the increase of prices in general in the country. But we don't have, for the moment, any case of COVID in the chimpanzees, and even COVID in the caregivers, in the staff.
Right, and I think it's also interesting, Rebecca, if you tell everyone what you told us before we started about the fine for wearing masks in the Congo.
Yes, in Congo, everybody's wearing masks, and because if you don't wear a mask, you need to pay $20. Then everybody's wearing masks, and that's impressive. That's really impressive.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's one quick question from Silke in the chat box. With the blood transfusion, was the blood from another chimp?
Let me just, I'm going to try to put the camera, like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to put the camera anyway. Yes, the blood transfusion is done from, we take the blood from another chimpanzee. The thing is that in all our the chimpanzees that we have at Tchimpounga, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, it's here.
There you are.
Here, yes. All the chimpanzees that we have in Tchimpounga, we do health checks on a regular basis. And every time that we do health check, we do the blood typing. And like this, we know the blood typing of all the chimpanzees that we have. And when we need to do a blood transfusion, we just go to the list and we said, okay, who can be a donor? And we collect the blood of the possible donors. Normally, we collect blood of 2 possible donors. And we collect the blood of the baby or the chimpanzee that need a blood transfusion. And we do one thing that is called cross-matching. That you mix the blood of the both, but in the microscope, and you check in the microscope if there is microagglutination, and if in function of that you decide what blood you are going to use for your baby or your adult chimp. But this blood of other chimpanzees.
Right. Okay. Because I think sometimes we hear Dr. Goodall say that we're so closely related to chimps that we could have a blood transfusion from them. But I think, so I'm just thinking that's probably where that question came from. But
yes.
There's some more questions coming now in the Q&A box, which is great to see. Someone named Sophia has the question, are the chimps being successfully reintroduced to the wild once they arrive at our sanctuary?
When they arrive to the sanctuaries, after their arrival, takes a long time. And yes, there is a successful reintroduction, but not with us for the moment. We are in process. But other sanctuaries, they did the reintroduction. One sanctuary is in Guinea that is called CCC. They did reintroduction of chimpanzees, and they still doing reintroduction, and it's success. Another sanctuary that is called Help Congo, they do reintroduction of chimpanzees, and it's success. But take a long time and you need to monitor in the chimps for most of their life, but the rest of their life, and protect the area, protect the space, the place that you are going to release them.
Right. So the reintroductions that are happening, it's under a very, very careful system where not only are those sanctuaries continuing to monitor the chimps that they've released into the wild, but they're also having to be involved in the protection of that area where they're reintroduced. Is that right?
Yes, is right. And normally when we reintroduce chimpanzees, we use radio collars, that GPS collars of telemetry, and like this we can monitor them in a long time. And we need to do a protection of the area. We need to be sure, we don't need to do it. Maybe there is another NGO that is doing the protection, but we need to be sure that that area is protected. And the thing that we saw is that when you protect that area, then you have more animals coming, and you increase the level of elephants and the other species on the area.
Right. Okay, great. And then another question, which I think is quite interesting, is from Itaso. How do you avoid the corruption in the Congolese justice system? Do we have a local specialized lawyer?
For avoid the corruption
yeah, in Congo.
At Tchimpounga, we have a lot of systems. We have a lot of anti-corruption systems that we put in place for try to reduce. For example, in finance, we have different people that go to the bank that the cash. Like we have a lot of systems in place for try to reduce the corruption, but it's so difficult. It's a country that is quite difficult to control all the little things, but we try to do the best.
Right. And so there's anti-corruption measures being put in place by the Congolese government, and the role of Tchimpounga or the Goodall Institute Congo is to help support that.
Yes, normally we always we try to support that. It's like in our country, in Congo, we have a lot of companies that they allow, they don't put systems against corruption, and we need to really be clear, and we don't accept any kind of corruption because for the NGO that we are, and we try to help them to understand why not, and why we can do things doing in the right direction without using other kind of methods.
Right. And another question from Richard, who's on the line. Due to the close correlation of DNA between humans and chimps, can chimps catch COVID-19?
We don't know yet. Normally, yes, they should be able to have COVID-19, but I don't know any case for the moment of a chimpanzee with COVID-19.
That's true. I think our colleagues around the Jane Goodall Institute, I mean, around the world, haven't seen any cases yet.
No.
But hopefully lots of places like zoos and sanctuaries, as well as where people are working with wild chimps, they're being very, very cautious as well, and trying their best to reduce any potential contact. Great. And Steve Woodruff is on the line to say hello. He'd like to know, what is the current status of security on the Konkwati Reserve? Is this still your preferred release area when you release mandrills and chimps?
Hello, Steve. Yes, in Konkwati National Park now, we had a problem for several years because Wildlife Conservation Society, that was the NGO that was protecting that park, they left. And for many years, we didn't have protection. But now we have a new NGO that is going to start in January, and they have already the agreement with the Congolese government for protect the area. But they just didn't start before because for the COVID-19. They are waiting to January, and they are going to start. And yes, we have our idea is to release. We have already mandrills that we are releasing there, and our idea is to release chimpanzees there too.
And is that the reserve that Tchimpounga sits in or part of, or is it something that's nearby?
It's close to Tchimpounga. Tchimpounga is the name of Tchimpounga is the Tchimpounga Reserve. Okay. And Konkwati is close to Tchimpounga. It's in the same region. It's like 2 hours from Tchimpounga, approximately.
Okay.
It's really close.
Yeah.
And same habitat that is very similar.
Okay. There's another question from Diana, who's on the line. Are your sanctuaries close to being full? And if so, where would be the next place to rehabilitate rescued chimpanzees to? Sorry,
I don't understand the question.
So are the sanctuaries full? Are we able to take any more rescued chimpanzees or not? And if our sanctuaries are full, where can they go?
That was a problem that we had at Tchimpounga. In 2008, we were full. We didn't have a space for more chimpanzees. And the thing that we did was this strategy in 3 directions. No? And one part of the strategy was to increase the space for the chimpanzees looking for other places. And was the moment that we found the islands, and we did our buildings at the islands because we have dormitories at the islands. And we were able to have more space for more chimpanzees. And if the sanctuary of Tchimpounga is full again, I know already another island that I can go and try to get for us. But I think that in every sanctuary, they need to have a strategy, not what to do after. They should have it. Sometimes you don't have options and you need to go to a completely different location. But the big problem in all this is not the location, is more about the funding for the buildings. The construction of a sanctuary is really expensive. To build a dormitory or to build a fence is really, really expensive. And if you don't have infrastructure, you cannot have chimpanzees at the welfare that we should have them. And that's the big deal, the funding for the infrastructures.
Yeah. And there was another question about being concerned about the illegal wildlife trade. And this is from Viviana, who says, thank you for your presentation and amazing work. How can we as individuals create awareness outside of Africa to reduce the demand for wildlife trafficking? I gave a brief answer to her typed in. saying, of course, that we do at the Jane Goodall Institute have the Forever Wild campaign, which is actually aimed at people outside of Africa to help us get to know more about illegal wildlife trafficking and to get to know more about what we as individuals can do. But do you have anything to add to that, Rebecca?
Yes, I think that every person can, every individual can do something. And about illegal trafficking is just, it depends on the country that you are, but if you see something, say something, you know, don't, if you see that they are doing illegal traffic of, I don't know, other, even no chimpanzees, other species, other primates, other species that are protected, you should say something and go to police and try to push for stop it. And another way to help is to support projects that are working against illegal trafficking on the country, and that projects that are working for stop the illegal trafficking. The big problem here is that if animals go out of Africa, that's the big problem, that we need to stop that line. And if that's the way that we can help, giving support, economical support to other projects. And even every single person can give, even if it's $1, $100, it's a lot. That's a lot, because when all together we give some support, at the end we can do big things.
Right.
A big change.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, even illegal trafficking, but that's very important. For illegal trafficking and everything, it's about the wood. It's like sometimes we don't realize where we buy the wood, like if they come from Africa, because illegal traffic is increased when the forest disappear. The forest is the house for all the wildlife, for chimpanzees, gorillas, elephants. And if we finish with their forest, with their house, and then it's easy to hunt them. And the thing that we need to do, everybody all around the world, is like try to reduce or effect in the forest in Congo. How? In Congo and or Africa. Every time that we go and buy anything that is made from wood, like a table, a chair, ask from where it comes the wood. It needs to come from a plantation, not from Africa or from America.
Yeah.
And we need to really be conscious of what is our impact in the forest.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you raised that too, because there's a group of nonprofits and charities right now in Europe who've come together on a program called #TogetherForForests. And this is campaigning for the European Union to change their laws about the sourcing of timber products that come into the EU. So that's another thing to look at our website for. The Forever Wild campaign, which encourages individuals, everyone out there, to get involved. We can look on social media. We can try and flag posts that are attempting to sell wildlife that shouldn't be. And we can also get involved in other campaigns to lobby governments to change policies that need to be changed in order to protect forests. So that's great.
It's about the logging and the palm oil. The palm oil is having a huge, is destroying all the forests for the orangutans, and now it's coming to Africa too. And that's every time that we go to the market, just to only check that has palm oil, then I don't buy that. That's a huge support that you are giving to the wildlife, only taking this decision.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to some of the questions again. There's more coming in. In the chat box, Lucy asks, how do you know that the bushmeat trade in chimpanzees hasn't simply moved underground and out of sight of the markets?
Yes, that's the thing that we think that maybe is happening in the markets now. You cannot see that exposed. Before, yes, before you saw meat of gorilla that was exposed with no problem. But since we start to do public awareness everywhere, we know that sometimes they have meat, but it's hide. Meat of elephant, we have some information about that. For chimpanzee and gorilla, we don't have that, but because we don't know if something is going on in secret, we can say we started now with a program that is a sniffer dog program with dogs that they detect chimpanzee, gorilla, elephant, pangolin, and what was the other one? Anyway, they detect 5 different protected species. And we started with the program already in Congo. We are working in Tchimpounga, and very soon we'll start to work in other locations. And our objective is to ride to the airport, and even to ride to the airport. Like this, we can detect this illegal trade of wildlife species before that go outside the country.
Right. Excellent. There's another completely unrelated question. How do you interrupt the reproduction in the sanctuaries? I think our friend Silke, who's written this question, has been to Ngamba Island. So she's wondering how you do it at Tchimpounga.
Yes. But that's a good question, because people, they don't know if we are doing contraception. Yeah. And yes, we are doing contraception. We use implants. We use implants in the chimpanzees and in the females, and we change that on a regular basis. And with the idea that if we use implants, in the moment that we're going to release them into the wild, we can take out the implant. Why we are doing contraception? Because we need to have a space for more chimpanzees, orphan chimpanzees that come from illegal trade. Once we are going to be able to release them into the wild, we can take out the implant, and they can be reproductive again into the forest.
Right, and it's interesting to note that those implants are actually the ones that are made for humans, right?
Yes, these are the same.
The same, yeah. So our dear friend Susanna Patara, who's on the line, she's asking the status of protection of the Tchimpounga Reserve, is that respected by the authorities?
Yes. Yes, and for the Tchimpounga is a natural reserve. Concoati, for example, is a national park. And in Tchimpounga, we have rangers. We have more than 20 rangers that are all the time at the area. And actually, we are doing a study with camera traps. And camera traps that you make pictures of animals that go in front of you. But we are doing that study for chimpanzees. And we found that it's so interesting to see all the population. And now we have the face, we can recognize all the wild chimpanzees that we have in Tchimpounga. We have more chimpanzees outside into the sanctuary, more chimpanzees into the reserve that are wild than in the sanctuary. And yes, and even we are lucky in Tchimpounga, because the culture there, people there, they are Billy, and the Billy, they have, they respect a lot the chimpanzee. They think that the chimpanzee is an ancestor of a human, of you, and they don't want to kill chimpanzees. Normally, when other cultures come to the area, is the moment that we can see impact in this species.
Great. So there's rangers and camera traps in the Tchimpounga Reserve. And you're able to see that there's more chimpanzees that are wild in the Tchimpounga Reserve than you actually have in the sanctuary.
Yes, a lot more.
Oh, that's great. So I have a long question I'm going to read out from our colleague Emily, who has been helping to lead the Forever Wild campaign. Emily says, you mentioned that public awareness has increased significantly with respect to the law that protects great apes, and how important it is that the public has a positive attitude about the great apes. You also said that the billboards make a big difference, and also that seeing that law enforced, even towards that law is enforced, even towards the associates of the crime, like the boat driver. Can you say a bit more about your thoughts on what is behind these key factors that change attitudes and behavior in the community? What more can be done, and what could be done elsewhere, where we know that the problem of trafficking is increasing in other parts of Africa?
For us, if we know that there is a change of knowledge and change in attitude, is because before the implantation of the billboards, we do always a pre-test. In the pre-test, we do some questions to the public. In every billboard, we need to do at least 50 people around the billboard before the implantation of the billboard, and we do another post-test 6 months later. And now we are doing a test all around the country again. We are doing billboards for already 10 years. And the thing that we saw, for example, we started with a billboard campaign. Why? Because when we start trying to do law enforcement, the people at the ministry say to us, okay, but we cannot do law enforcement because people, they don't know that it's illegal. And it's no, they need to know that it's illegal. And we said, okay, we're going to do the billboard campaign. And even doing the billboard campaign, only the billboard campaign was not really effective. Was when we started working with the other NGO, with PALF, that they start to do law enforcement. Because for years we were saying, okay, it's illegal, but it's illegal. If nothing happened, at the end, there is no impact. But when people see that it's illegal and something is happening and people go to prison, at the beginning, it's not everybody that is doing illegal traffic of chimpanzees. And people start to go to prison, we start to do public awareness, and people start to understand that it was illegal, and really they have a positive attitude because they don't need to kill chimpanzees. They don't need the meat. The meat is expensive of the chimpanzees, and it's like something special. It's not that they need that for their life. And even the chimpanzee, the pets, that's not something that they need. The local communities. And I think that it's important, give them the opportunity to know the legislation, and after to know that they go to prison, and to show them why they need to be proud of the chimps. And all these things need to go together. And that are the key points, like to work in the two directions at the same time.
Great. We have a question from Safina. She's a photographer and a writer, and she's wondering if she can get involved in Forever Wild. So I could ask Emily perhaps to type a response to that. And she also may want to interview some of our key campaigners, which is great. Rebecca, do you have any thoughts on how photographers and writers can use their skills to help your work or to help the fight against the illegal wildlife trafficking?
Yes, the writers writing about this and make all these messages public, and the photographers the same thing. Yeah. To be there for be able to show what we are doing on the ground. Of course.
Yeah, and I think also with wildlife, photographs of wildlife in their natural habitats makes people perhaps more sympathetic and more inclined to want to protect those natural habitats and that way of life for those wildlife. And one of the things that we try to do at Forever Wild is try to discourage the sharing of photographs that are unnatural. So we don't want to see chimpanzees dressed up in human clothes or treated like babies, because that's not their natural way of life. And that's not the way that a baby chimpanzee would thrive in any way. So Emily's also responding to Safina's question. Safina also says, I've seen some work with black mambas a couple of years ago. There's a female anti-poaching unit in South Africa. And she's very happy to help and share that news with us. Okay, great. Thank you, Safina. Emily's also writing in the chat box about the Forever Wild campaign. So that's great. I might just do a last call for questions. Sorry for the background noise on my end. There's some creaking noises. Are there any more questions? Otherwise, I think we might wrap up. I just have a couple more things to say before we sign off. That's to say, if you have any more questions, of course, please send them to us. You can get in touch with us through the janegoodall.global website. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Your presentation was really interesting, and I think we had a very interesting Q&A dialogue too. Normally for a guest speaker, we might give you flowers or at least a chimp hug. So I'm sending you a virtual chimp hug, Rebecca, to say thank you.
Thank you.
We will make recordings for some of our webinars available through a YouTube channel that we'll set up very soon. So those of you who have attended webinars with us, that's all of you on the line today, you will receive an email from us with links when the webinars are available. Thank you all for participating. One last comment, as we said in the beginning, we're doing these webinars to also support our programs and our sanctuaries. So please, if you enjoyed our discussion today, please also consider making a donation in addition to the $5 that you contributed already to join today. Our programs need help at this time, and your donation will be matched as well, as we have said. So we really hope you'll take advantage of the matching. You can go to our website and you will find a few things. There'll be a donate button, which takes you to PayPal. And you will also find links there to the other Jane Goodall Institute offices and chapters. So please have a look. And if there's an office in your country, please go to the website, learn about the programs, and consider making a donation locally. So thank you all for being part of today's session. We hope to see you in the future at our future webinars. And thank you again, Rebecca, for your inspiration today and the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.